You are standing in a restaurant in Europe. You ask for ice in your water. The waiter looks at you like you just asked for something impossible. You are in Japan. You smile at a stranger on the street. They look away, uncomfortable. You are in Germany. You ask someone how they are doing. They start actually telling you. If you are American, every one of these moments has happened to you. And if you are not American, every one of these moments has confused you. The question is not whether Americans are strange. The question is why. And the real answer goes much deeper than culture. It goes back to history, geography, psychology, and a set of circumstances so unique that no other nation on Earth has quite replicated them. America was not built. It was assembled. From the very beginning, the United States was a nation of people who had already made one of the most radical decisions a human being can make. They left. They left their countries, their families, their languages, their entire worlds behind, and crossed an ocean to somewhere they had never been. Psychologist Shinobu Kitayama at the University of Michigan has spent decades studying what he calls the frontier hypothesis. His research shows that the act of migration itself selects for a very specific psychological profile. People who leave are statistically more likely to be risk-tolerant, individualistic, novelty-seeking, and optimistic about the future. The people who stayed were different, more cautious, more rooted, more comfortable with the familiar.
America did not just receive immigrants. It received a specific kind of immigrant, self-selected for boldness. And that boldness became the psychological foundation of an entire nation. This explains more American behaviors than almost anything else. Why do Americans introduce themselves so quickly and share personal information with strangers almost immediately? Because in a nation constantly assembling new communities from scratch, the ability to build trust fast was a social survival skill. You did not have the luxury of slow trust when everyone around you was also new. Why do Americans smile at strangers? Linguist Deborah Tannen calls this phatic communication, speech and gesture designed not to exchange information, but to signal safety. In a nation of strangers from hundreds of different cultures with no shared social language, the smile became the universal trust signal. It said, "I acknowledge you. I am not a threat."
Why do Americans work so much? The United States has fewer legally mandated vacation days than almost every other developed nation. The average American takes fewer days off than workers in France, Germany, Japan, and the United Kingdom. This is not laziness in reverse. This is a direct inheritance of the Protestant work ethic brought by early settlers, combined with a frontier psychology that equated productivity with virtue. In a new land with no inherited wealth and no social safety net, you worked or you did not survive. That equation burned itself into American culture so deeply that 200 years later, it still feels morally wrong to rest. Why do Americans talk so loudly? Researchers studying cross-cultural communication consistently find that Americans use larger personal space bubbles and project their voices at higher volumes in social settings than most European and Asian cultures. This traces back to a culture that rewards confidence, self-promotion, and visibility. In a nation where you had to stand out to get ahead, quiet was not a virtue. Making yourself heard was.
Why do Americans put ice in everything?
This one has a specific historical origin. In the 1800s, a Boston businessman named Frederick Tudor built an empire harvesting ice from frozen New England lakes and shipping it across America and the world. Ice became cheap, accessible, and culturally embedded into American daily life decades before the rest of the world caught on. When mechanical refrigeration arrived, it only deepened the habit. Americans grew up expecting cold drinks. It became cultural DNA so deep that asking for water without ice now feels like something is missing. Why do Americans tip? Almost no other country has a tipping culture as embedded as the United States. The origin is partly economic. American restaurant workers are legally paid below minimum wage, with the expectation that tips will make up the difference, and partly cultural.
tipping became a way to signal generosity, status, and social awareness. In a culture that values individual transactions and personal relationships over institutional systems, the direct person-to-person payment felt right in a way that a service charge added to a bill never quite did. Why do Americans put their flag everywhere? On houses, on cars, on clothing, on coffee cups? Psychologist Howard Weston at Columbia University found that nations with high immigration diversity tend to develop stronger symbolic national identity markers as a way of creating cohesion across difference. When you cannot assume shared ancestry, shared religion, or shared language, the flag becomes the one symbol that says we are the same thing, even though we came from everywhere different. And here is the counterintuitive twist that ties all of this together.
The things the rest of the world finds strange about Americans are almost all expressions of the same underlying impulse. The impulse to connect across difference, to build trust with strangers, to signal safety, openness, and belonging in a nation that has been assembling itself from scratch for 400 years. The loud voice is saying, I am here, and I want to be seen. The smile at the stranger is saying, I am safe, and so are you. The ice in the water is saying, this is what home tastes like. The flag on the house is saying, we are one thing, even though we came from everywhere. The question is not why Americans do things the rest of the world finds strange. The question is what it costs to build a nation out of nothing but strangers, and what extraordinary habits that building process leaves behind. Every strange American behavior is a solution to a problem most countries never had to solve. Because most countries were born. America was assembled. And the assembly instructions are still running in everything Americans do today.